My mom and sister were hosting Grandpa's 90th birthday. My husband leaned in and whispered, "Get your bag. We're leaving." Act like nothing's wrong. I thought he was being dramatic until he locked the car doors and said, "Something's very, very wrong." 5 minutes later, I called the police. I hadn't seen most of these people in 5 years, some longer. A few I was certain I'd never met. Someone handed me a plastic flute of champagne. A kid ran by, holding a paper plate like a steering wheel. There were folding chairs, paper lanterns, polite music playing from a Bluetooth speaker, standard ingredients for a low-key outdoor celebration. Festive, slightly awkward. It should have been fine, and for the first hour, it was. I stood by the finger food table, pretending to care about grape skewers. My husband, Daniel, stood beside me, holding a glass of white wine, watching the crowd with that neutral, inscrutable look he gets when he's too polite to admit he wants to leave. Mom was in her element, hugging people, wiping tears, reapplying lipstick behind a napkin. Dad sat near the grill, grumbling about the weather like it had personally insulted him. My sister, Lily, was predictably nowhere near me. Her husband was laughing at something no one else found funny. It was Grandpa's house, but it didn't feel like him anymore. He'd built it after his business took off, nothing flashy, just big enough for people to whisper about how well he'd done. They all lived here now, Mom, Dad, Lily, and her husband. There was room, I suppose. We'd flown in from London the day before. For years, I'd asked when we could visit, and the answers were always vague. It's not a good time. He's not feeling well. Maybe next year. Then this spring, Mom said, if you really want to see him, come for his birthday. So I jumped at it. I thought maybe she was softening, that this meant something. The party was in full swing when they brought Grandpa out in a wheelchair, hair neatly brushed, wearing a sweater vest I vaguely recognized. Everyone clapped like he'd walked a red carpet. I stood frozen. He looked good to good. His face was smooth, his eyes distant, like he was half listening to a song no one else could hear. I waved, he didn't wave back. I told myself it was age. Mom leaned over and whispered, "He doesn't talk much anymore. It's hard for him." I nodded like I understood. She raised her glass and began the toast, voice trembling just enough to make it about her. 90 years of wisdom, love, and generosity, she said. He built our family. He gave us this life. Some guests sniffled. A woman behind me murmured, "Beautiful." Daniel didn't clap. I noticed he was staring. "Hey," I said quietly, nudging him. "What's wrong?" He didn't answer. Just kept watching Grandpa or the man in the chair like he was memorizing every wrinkle. "Daniel," I said again. That's when he leaned in. "Get your bag. We're leaving." "Act like nothing's wrong," I laughed. "You're kidding." He didn't smile. His eyes didn't move. "Get your bag. What are you talking about? We just got here." He turned his head slowly, finally looking at me. "Something is very, very wrong." It wasn't how he said it was how calm he was. Like stating a fact, like gravity. My hands went cold. I glanced at Grandpa. He hadn't moved, his hands resting on the armrest like props. "Are you serious?" I asked. Daniel didn't answer. He was already walking toward the house. I followed upstairs, fumbling with the zipper on my overnight bag. My heart was thudding. My mouth was dry. I kept thinking, if he's wrong, this is going to be so embarrassing. If he's right. We went out the front door. No one stopped us. No one even looked up. At the car, Daniel opened the passenger side for me like a gentleman in a spy movie. We got in, he locked the doors, gripped the steering wheel, and said, "That's not your grandfather." I used to think I was imagining it, the difference. The way things played out for me versus Lily. Maybe I was too sensitive, too dramatic, always finding reasons to feel left out. I told myself that for years until Lily turned 18, and the entire house acted like she was boarding the Titanic. She stood at the front door with her duffel bag and a full tuition scholarship. And Mom was crying like someone had died. "You don't have to go," she kept saying. "We'll manage. Please just stay a bit longer." 2 years earlier, when I turned 18, I got a suitcase and a nod. "It's time to grow up," Dad said. "You're an adult now. Go build your life." No hugs, no tears, no offers to help me pack. I don't want to sound bitter, I really don't. I moved out, went to college, got on with things. But there's something about being ushered out like a polite guest, while your sister gets begged to stay. It sticks. The funny part? I didn't even have a choice about college. I knew I had to go, not because anyone told me to, but because I needed an excuse to leave. My parents didn't contribute a cent. I don't think they even asked what I was studying. It was Grandpa who helped quietly, sending money every few months, just enough for rent, groceries, or the occasional breakdown. No fuss, no lectures, just a folded check and a note in his shaky handwriting. "Hope this helps. Proud of you." He didn't owe me that, but he did it anyway. I remember Grandpa from the beginning. Before I had full sentences. He'd pick me up, tell me stories in a voice that sounded like it knew secrets. He made me wooden toys and showed me how to use a hand plane when I was still in Velcro sneakers. He smelled like cedar and peppermint tea. Back then, it felt like he was mine, like I was his favorite. Maybe I was. But life pulls people apart. College turned into a job turned into Daniel, and just like that, we were in London. It wasn't a dramatic escape, just opportunity, work, timing, and if I'm honest, relief. Being far away made it easier not to notice how rarely my parents called, to pretend the silence was just time zones, to ignore the hollow feeling after any conversation with Lily. No matter how friendly it seemed, we kept in touch. Sort of holiday emails, occasional Zoom calls. The last real conversation I had with Grandpa was on one of those, 3 years ago. He looked older but sharp, asking about my work, joking about squirrels stealing his tomatoes. After that, things got quieter. I'd asked to talk to him and Mom would say he was sleeping, not feeling well, or too tired. Eventually, she stopped answering altogether. I told myself it was normal people age, they withdraw. Maybe it was hard for him to talk. But something never sat right. I didn't press. I had a life, a job, a husband. I told myself it wasn't personal, that I hadn't been cut out, just gently left behind. Then came the birthday invitation, or rather, permission. If you really want to see him, Mom said over the phone, come for his 90th. I didn't hesitate. I booked the flights that night, thinking it meant something. That maybe this was the moment things shifted, that I was being let back in. Instead, I walked into a party where I knew no one, stood on grass that didn't feel familiar, and realized this place had stopped being mine if it ever was. They'd absorbed the house like a natural extension of their closeness, their real family. I was just the outsider visiting. I kept telling myself it was in my head, that I was projecting, being dramatic again. But then Daniel leaned in and said, get your bag. Nothing felt imaginary anymore. We sat in the car like we'd committed a crime or escaped one. I couldn't tell the difference. Daniel gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. I was frozen halfway through buckling my seatbelt. As if not clicking it would keep this from being real. What do you mean it's not him? He didn't look at me. I mean, it's not your grandfather. What are you talking about? I'm serious, he said, calm but not kind. That man in the wheelchair, that's not him. I stared at him like he'd suggested the cake was uranium. You think someone put on a mask? Like a Scooby-Doo villain? Not a mask. His ears are different, I blinked. His ears? Daniel finally looked at me. You don't get it. I remember faces, every detail. I can sketch someone I saw once at a train station in 2009. I don't forget faces or ears. That's not your grandfather. My stomach turned to water. I wanted to laugh, not the haha kind, but the unraveling, high-pitched, slipping dash off dash a dash cliff kind. I pressed my hand to my face. My brain tried to logic through it. What else could it be? Who else could it be? Your uncle? Daniel said, what? Didn't you say he looked a lot like your grandfather when he was younger? He did. But that was years ago. And my uncle wasn't at the party, hadn't said a word. Plus, I whispered, he was wearing glasses and a beard. Probably makeup, just enough, Daniel said. Not over the top. And I'm telling you, those ears, different shape, not even clothes. Daniel, I know, he said. I know what I saw. I pressed my forehead to the window, my breath fogging the glass. My heart rattled like it was trying to punch a hole in my ribs. I didn't want to believe him. I wanted to go back to when this was just a weird party where I was the uninvited guest. The disappointing daughter, the out-of-town stranger. That reality felt safe. Then where is he? The question rippled through me like a fever breaking. Where is Grandpa? Everything tilted, the awkward toasts, the crying, the half-empty guest list. The way no one let me get close to him, the way he never spoke. The way they shut me down every time I tried. I haven't talked to him in 3 years, I said out loud. Daniel glanced at me. What, 3 years? The last time was over Zoom. He looked tired. Then Mom said he was too sick to talk. Every time I called, it was he's resting or he had a rough night. I thought I was being dramatic, but now, I wasn't sure I hadn't been screaming into a void this whole time. Okay, Daniel said. I think you need to call someone. I stared at him. You mean the police? He nodded once. If we're wrong, we're wrong. But we're not. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I pictured Mom's face when I left, that tight little smile that didn't touch her eyes. The slight shake of her head, like I dropped uninvited into my own life. I'm going to ruin everything, I whispered. Sophie, Daniel said gently, you're not the one who did that. I reached for my phone like it weighed 1,000 pounds. My thumb hovered over the screen. Then I called. The police arrived faster than I expected. 2 officers, plain clothes, quiet. They spoke to us outside the car. I told them what I could, which wasn't much, trying to sound sane, which wasn't easy. I know this sounds strange, but I believe someone is impersonating my grandfather. I don't know where he is and I think something's wrong. They asked calm questions. The kind that feel like traps even when they're not. Then they nodded and walked to the house like they were delivering a package. I stayed in the car, watching. The party didn't stop right away, no screaming, no running. It was worse, everything dimmed, like someone turned the dial on reality down a few notches. People still held glasses, still smiled, but their eyes darted, shoulders tighter. The officers pulled people aside. I saw one speak to Mom. She looked like someone had told her the wine was corked. Then got defensive, gesturing, shaking her head. Her mouth moved fast, but her hands didn't. She wasn't touching anyone, not even Dad. He stood off to the side, staring at the hedge like it held answers. They spoke to the man in the wheelchair. He didn't say a word. Then they must have asked for ID. Mom went inside, came back with something. It changed nothing. The officers knelt, talked low, carrying that professional stillness, calm, composed, unreadable. Then one stood and walked away. The other stayed. Eventually, the man in the wheelchair looked up, said a few words, then nodded. It wasn't over, not even close. An officer came back to the car. Can you stay nearby? We'll contact you soon. Is it him? I asked, is it my grandfather? We're still confirming some things. He didn't answer directly. We'll be in touch. Then he walked away. I sat there, every second pressing down on me. Where is he? Where is he? That night, my phone rang again. Mom, furious, crying or screaming, I couldn't tell the difference. How could you? You called the police on your own family. You think you're better than us because you moved away. I tried to speak. I couldn't. You don't understand. You weren't here. You didn't see what it was like. We did what we had to do for him, for all of us. What did you do? I asked, voice breaking. Where is he? You don't get to ask that, not now. Not after what you've done. Where is Grandpa? Silence. Then a click and the line went dead. The police came to our hotel room the next morning. I thought I might throw up, not because I was scared of them, though there was that, but because I was still hoping Daniel had misread something, gotten carried away. Mistaken ears, mistaken identity, mistaken everything. But they didn't come to arrest or question us. They came to tell me my grandfather was dead, had been for 3 years. They didn't say it like that, of course, calm, professional. One officer talking while the other watched me like I might bolt. There's been a voluntary statement. The family reports that Mr. Thompson passed away in March 2022, natural causes. The body was privately buried. I sat down, unable to feel my legs or fingers. We're treating this as an open investigation until the coroner can confirm the circumstances of death. The words bounced off me like rain on a locked car. 3 years. I'd been sending birthday cards, asking for Zoom calls, wondering if I'd done something wrong. If Grandpa was mad at me for moving away, if he was just too sick to talk. No, he was gone. They didn't tell me, didn't tell anyone. I barely remember what I said to the officers. I think I asked if he suffered. They said they didn't know yet. I asked if the man at the party was my uncle. They nodded. I wanted to scream, hit something, or crawl into a hole forever. Instead, I said, thank you, like a polite idiot. The news trickled online a few days later, Reddit posts, a local gossip blog. Then someone uploaded grainy phone footage of the birthday toast, Mom wiping her eyes. The man in the wheelchair pretending to listen. This man died 3 years ago. His family threw him a 90th birthday party anyway. The internet laughed, speculated, then tore us to shreds. I didn't read the comments after the first 20. I was called everything from an accomplice to an ungrateful brat. Who should have let her family cope in peace? People had opinions. They always do. Then came the call from the lawyer, not theirs, Grandpa's, Sophie. I've been trying to reach you for some time. I nearly hung up. Your grandfather left his estate to you, the house, the business assets, the trust, everything. I stared at the floor, at the stupid grout line in the kitchen tile that never quite aligned. My throat went dry. This wasn't a secret, he added gently. He told your mother, your sister, years ago, and suddenly it clicked, the lies, the secrecy. The fake party, the man in the wheelchair. They hadn't just hidden his death. They'd hidden it from me because if he was dead, the estate was mine. If I didn't know, they could keep living in his house, using his money, pretending I didn't exist. I called Mom. I didn't know what I wanted, answers, maybe. She picked up on the second ring. How dare you? Her voice shook with fury, not grief, not shame, rage. You called the police on your own family. You humiliated us. You have no idea what you've done. I tried to speak. She didn't let me. You weren't here. You don't know what it was like. You left. You gave up on this family, and now you swoop in like some hero. Where is he? I interrupted. Silence. What happened to him? What did you do with his body? You don't get to ask that, she said coldly. You weren't there. I asked every year, I said. You lied. Every time. We were protecting him, protecting you. He didn't want a big deal made of his death. He wanted peace. I laughed, cracked, bitter, like something broken under pressure. You didn't protect him. You looted him. She hung up. Weeks passed. The investigation moved slowly, then faster statements, interviews, subpoenas. The coroner confirmed what my family claimed: natural causes. Grandpa died in his sleep, no trauma, no poisoning, just an old man's quiet end. I cried for the first time since the police visit, finally able to mourn him without doubt. But there was still the fraud, the impersonation, the money. Charges were filed: failure to report a death, withholding information, illegally accessing funds, identity deception. They didn't get prison probation, conditional, monitored, sternly delivered. If they slipped, they'd go to jail. My uncle, the actor, faced charges but cooperated, getting probation too, and me? I got the house, the property, the assets, not billionaire level, but enough to explain why they'd pretended for so long. I didn't throw them out. The courts did. They moved out in silence, no apology, no eye contact. Mom left a note on the kitchen counter: "You always were good at taking what you didn't earn." I burned it in the sink. The first night I spent there alone, just visiting before heading back to London. I sat in Grandpa's chair, opened a bottle of wine, and put my feet on the table. The place was quiet, still smelled like wood polish. I didn't feel triumphant or vindicated, just dismissed. For once, I didn't feel like a stranger. I haven't spoken to my parents or Lily since, not even a text. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far. Other times, I wonder if I didn't go far enough. What do you think?